really, here we go. Like, I feel like that, when we normalize it a little bit more, there'll be a lot less of that attachment to it, and more people will do it, and more people will benefit from it. And then, as you had mentioned, literally like just before, remembering that there's more options. Like, it's not just journaling.
Yeah.
So, you want to start?
No.
Well, me, because she's super curious, I'm going to tell her off camera. So, we always hear about shadow work, journaling, reflecting, all of those things. But I was listening to an audiobook that was written by a psychologist. And the way he described shadow work definitely set with me differently than how some other descriptions I had heard in the past. So, here we go. So, it's, to me, and what I choose to reflect on is, you still alludes to that inner child, that little Carla or the little Karlie, but also to those pieces of you in different stages that you're not quite fond of.
Okay.
Right? So when I was doing this practice with this audiobook, I went back to the 6th grade. So this is a little bit raw, right? So this is a little bit real here. I went back to the 6th grade and how body had already shifted into puberty. I had went from this smaller figure, and I'll get back to that, and that happens again in another cycle later. And I had developed, right? And I didn't understand that there were certain expectations of like attire. So just point blank, like wearing a bra, right?
Okay.
And that there were different options, and how it was a little different or odd at that stage of my life that I was still wearing a training bra, right? Okay. And on this same level, this shadow of little Carla didn't understand always hygiene, so I was clean, but didn't understand that season of my life that meant more frequent. This is really tough, right? More frequent showers, those types of things, right? More care of my hair, maybe doing my hair a little bit better, whatever. And so that version of little Carla, there was some ashamed.
You were shaming yourself.
Yes, for that stage. A little bit of fear attached, a lot of judgment received, obviously, and probably rightly so. But that was the little Carla that I wanted to keep tucked away in the shadows, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in that verbiage, in that practice, the shadow work was going back to that little Carla and realizing that, okay, self-care just wasn't talked about. Like, those things just weren't talked about in the household, right? It was an understanding that the changes were happening, but not like, what the fuck did that mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so as ages go, now into high school, body changes again. I go back to a much thinner form. And I was proud of it.
Okay.
Sometimes wore pushy attire in that proudness, right? And now as an adult, I'm like, oh, that's another little Carla that probably wasn't for the greater good or for the higher power. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yours.
So, yeah. And then again, as a young mom, with 3 kids, where I often consumed the majority of a bottle of wine to get to sleep. And I maintained, the house is done, the house is clean, all that stuff. But differently, right? So that still, another younger version of Carla that maybe I need to go back and offer some love, respect, and understanding, and less judgment on that area of life.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So when you talk about all those aspects with shadow work, how would you honor yourself and work through those shadows of yourself to do your shadow work? Like,
some of it is digesting the aspects and viewpoints of energy that came from others, right? Okay. So if you had a friend and little Carla going through puberty, those individuals that surround you that were a little bit harsh with words and actions that they didn't know either, right? That they were little too, and just sending a different energy and tone to those memories and to those reflections and those areas of life. Not saying that it was okay or even acceptable, but it's just sending different energy to those memories, to those reflections. And then little Carla doesn't have to be ashamed that was just part of the process, right?
So when you reflect, I know you don't really like journaling. What do you do? Like, what are your practices in reflection?
Sometimes it's mushrooms, and that memory recall. And memory recall sometimes happens. I don't like using the verbiage out of body, but almost as a perspective of a third person in these situations that could kind of tell the little Carla version that maybe this was this way and that was that way. Okay. So lots of inner meditation, myself Reiki, the Claire, all the Claires, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's so it's not necessarily dreaming, right? But it's those visual works that would closely relate to that of a dream. That playback.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The
like
recollection.
Recollection was a better verbiage.
Yeah.
And then just reprogramming and resetting how that feels.
Okay.
Interesting. Mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but is there a starting point for somebody that doesn't want to dream? Like, where would you tell them to start?
I mean, I feel like a lot of that could still be, mind's eye work, right? And it's gonna suck. Like, I started, with that practice, just reflecting back onto the situations and the versions of me that felt really shitty, right? Like, if someone finds these pictures, that kind of thing, right? Like, if someone finds a picture of Carla in the 6th grade, like, oh no, let's just hide that shit.
Yeah.
Those, so awareness on what sucks.
Okay.
And so, I mean, that's part of like ripping off the Band-Aid, right?
Yeah.
So, awareness of what sucks.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And in real life, practice with others, there was an individual that came in here and she had the utmost distaste for her mom. Lack of maternal relationship or lack of maternal instincts over a bath time, right? So we went back and revisited what bath time felt like because her mom was dumping water over her head. And that even though in those young moments she felt unsafe, realistically, she was safe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how are let's just start at the beginning, kind of like I did. Like, what was your early understanding of shadow work versus how you view it now?
So, I always interpret shadow work as therapy without a doctor, right? And allowing yourself to use prompts to journal all of that, right? That's like journaling. That's always how I interpret, and I still do find value in journaling. I really do. But sometimes the human self still is so profoundly present that it doesn't let you get all of that out, right? I don't journal as much anymore. I try to once in a while, like just a journal prompt here and there, check in, but I don't force myself to write down all the proper things that I think I should be saying, right? It's really got to a point where the spirit really leads what I'm saying. Like, it's almost a meditative practice for me.
Absolutely.
I don't want to use the phrase automatic writing because it's not automatic writing, but in a sense, it is a little bit. Because I really do ritual around it to lower that ego, heighten that, higher self, and allow just whatever is going to come out as I need it to come out. And I also don't view it as I have this booklet or I have like 10 journal prompts, I need to do them all. I really feel like one is good, come back to it later. Another one is good, my diving into like all of my trauma and like all of that started with talk therapy. It started with talk therapy. And then I would journal in between those sessions just to have some like balance, right? There was never like my healing journey, I felt like was very think of how popcorn is made. I don't know how else to accurately describe this. It was never linear, which healing never is, right? It was never, okay, we talked about, this, now let's move on to this, and this is going to lead into that. No, it was literally like, I go into session, we start talking about what was going on in that day, and then that would just launch you into all of these things that you never even considered talking about in session that day, let alone thought about it for 10 years, So same thing with journaling and same thing with like shadow work is that's why I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with the journal prompts because it's supposed to be like whatever comes through, whatever you're supposed to be feeling in that moment, not with a journal prompt. It's saying it's
I know, so you're missing the roughness and you're missing the
yeah.
So some things are better without intention.
And I am finding that to be so much more truer in my practice than I ever considered because up until like this spring, I was like, okay, I've done this and I've done this, which is leading me to this, and I've been trying to be very linear with my journey. And I don't know what earthquake happened to shift that with me. But my God, I have felt so clouded, but in a good way. And I don't know. And I'm not supposed to know. It's none of my business to know. I'm going to figure it out, and I know figuring it out. And things are coming to me.
So, like, back to shadow work for just a second. You were talking about your shadow work. It felt like I heard situational. So, was it around particular events that you remember?
Elaborate a little versus when did I say situational?
Oh, I heard situational. I heard situational. So you're talking about, for me, it was more about phases. Phases of little, phases of after, phases.
So it was definitely a recollection of, memories.
Okay.
And it was very situational to what was happening in that moment to reflect back on what happened in the past. Because whatever was happening in the present kind of mirrored how I was feeling when that other thing happened, right? So, for example, I don't even know what a good one would be.
Well, there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe the hesitation there was that there were other people involved.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe like now's not the time
Probably not.
to pull the plug on those other individuals in life.
What I will say to that, because that is completely accurate, is a lot of my awkwardness, a lot of the way I would respond to things or learn or say was really rooted in never being able to express myself the way I thought was proper, because I was always suppressed, if that makes sense. So whether that was within family, whether that was around friends or people who I thought were friends, it didn't matter if I did something that I wanted to do or say, or if I was just repeating what somebody else did or say, it was never right. It was never viewed the same way as somebody else saying or doing the same thing.
And now you do that for a living.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
We do that for a living.
Yeah, that just okay. I'm gonna have to reflect on that a little bit. Fuckers.
I'm fuckers today.
So yeah, like being able to work through all of those memories and all of the scenarios that I went through my whole life, and realizing that literally none of that was me, and spending the majority of my mid to late 20s figuring out who the fuck I was, because I could never be me, but I could never be anybody else either. That puts you in such a weird fucking mindset. Okay.
So there was a big thought happening there. Okay. Yeah. And then, so even now, are you 31 or 32?
33.
33. Okay. It's just getting old on me.
No, I really am.
And I think I'm 41. But even now at 41, parts of me still don't know. Right? Like parts of me still don't know. The options to explore as knowledge grows, as wisdom grows.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these deeper conversations that we are allowed to have as adults with like-minded people.
Yeah.
It just changes things.
It does change things. And what an interesting topic and an interesting awareness is today, especially in the season that I'm in, with like, how many times in the last like month have I come to you and been like, what do I need to change about myself? Fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Fucking nothing.
I feel like we can always magnify certain things, right?
Yeah.
So
stop looking at yourself that you need to change to.
I think that's just the season that we're in,
to
right? Like my need for wanting to do more.
Yeah.
Like if I keep doing more, will individuals come, right? Something Matt brought up in the reading.
The candle, light the candle, people.
Oh, well, build that they will come.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the build that they will come. So funny thing is, many years ago, I was talking to my cousin, and I haven't formally got permission to use her name on here, but I apparently need to. So I was talking to my cousin, and I kept telling her around her business, build it, they will come. And one day, she said to me, so this was before the book that named the shop. This was before any of that, right? I felt this message was for her. And one day she said, I think that's your message. Build it, they will come. So Matt brought that whole build it, they will come up again here. And we have, and they are coming.
It's interesting that he used that metaphor because he said the same thing to me, but
differently.
Said, keep the candle burning.
Yeah.
And they will come.
Yeah. Come to light.
Yeah. Like lost.
Okay. Yeah. But this light won't kill you.
Listen, I just want to say, first and foremost, shout out to Tim for the recommendation on topic today. Thank you. Second, was not prepared to work through our own shadow work on this topic of shadow work. Naive of me to think that it would not to bring up anything.
It's been a moment since I've sat with those pieces.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's because the need is no longer there for those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's definitely still the need for shadow work for me from about 24. I'll write that down somewhere and figure out what that means. 24 to now, right? Like I've come to grasp with. There's a different maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adulthood maturity in that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess let's get back to the topic of shadow work for
okay. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So where we do sell shadow work journals, right? It's a tool, babe. Like anything else, it's a tool. Use it as you see fit.
Yeah.
Maybe you thumb through it and you catch one glimpse of a thing and you're like, okay, that's all I need. And that's all you need. Meditate on it. Talk about it. Look at it from different perspectives. If using plant allies is something that aligns with you and that's how you connect, who's to say that's right or wrong? It's up to you.
Be very specific with your intentions and what you ask for.
And we talk about intention all the time. In shadow work, intention. Always use intention.
And then, so on a separate note, so mirror work was mentioned to me recently as well.
Interesting.
And before, I had used a mirror and a candle to see what was just beyond, right? And so, okay, what does that mean, right? So in a candle, with a mirror and then a candle, right, the flame often blocks the clarity of the face in the mirror, right? And so in the past, when I would do candle work with a mirror, it was so I could see what was just outside of me, right?
Yeah.
So where you find your totems, maybe you'll see little pieces of your guides, perhaps little pieces of your ancestors, maybe your hair texture looks different, maybe your hair color looks different, or it even feels different just outside the flame. So, but however now it was mentioned more as a mirror work and re-implementing some of that awareness around, I don't like the word good, but on those traits that you value within yourself, right? And really speaking into awareness and into openness, those pieces of you that you love and those pieces of you that you appreciate, right? Yeah. And the value of yourself, your self-worth. Yeah, so, I mean, is that the aftercare for shadow work? Oh.
I think that, yeah. Okay. I think so.
So how was mirror work brought to you?
How
does that sit with you?
So I'm gonna have to go back and look at my notes because I did write it all down. For some reason, it's eluding me right now. I feel like it was around. I want to say protection, but I don't think it was. Protection keeps popping in my head, and then little Karlie keeps popping in my head because that was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
With
you saw little Karlie recently, didn't you?
I did it. Yeah, and that was interesting. Totally. So, like, where we always say, go into things with intention and like true intention and be very clear and mindful about intention. Sometimes having no awareness into going into things.
Intention and expectations are different.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
You went into it with no expectation.
No expectations.
Yeah.
That's a good actual tidbit for shadow work too. Going in with no expectations. Because if you go into healing in shadow work or healing in general with having expectations of, okay, this is going to fix me, I'm going to feel so much better after a session, you may feel better, a little lighter, but that doesn't mean that you're fully healed from it.
I just had a vision of like Bambi on ice.
Oh,
with
yeah.
shadow work. Yeah, where they're trying to find their legs and feet. It could be a little slippery. It could be a little unstable at first. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think that is another little tidbit with shadow work is where you're a forever student, you are always forever healing some aspect of yourself, whether that is trauma, whether that is learning a new skill and not, figuring out as quick as you want to do, just healing in any aspect of your life, any facet of your life. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be
like another kind of viewpoint that I'm sitting with recently is that of trauma, right? And how we sometimes use that word. It does elude the past because the trauma happened today, and even moments ago today is still a past, or yesterday or a year ago. But what's the verbiage around the shift of that? So the trauma happened, it's done, and now we're on to the next phase. How do we talk about it without giving that trauma more energy and more power? How do we get from this is the trauma and then this is the healing from that situation? Do we call it two different things?
I don't think two different names is where the disconnect would be. I think the mindset of it. Okay. If you are handling and working through trauma, but you still can't get past this happened to me, this bad thing happened to me, and you're still manifesting and festering that horribleness of it. And once you switch your mindset from that to, yes, that happened to me, but that isn't who I am. And you recognize that's not who I am, and this is what I learned from it. And this is how I'm going to use that to empower myself. That's my viewpoint on it. And that
would be a situational representation of shadow work.
Yeah.
When you're working through situations versus phases.
Yeah. I would even consider that in phases. Okay. Because that happened to you because you were not taught. And you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. Right. So it could be like, that happened to me, and that sucked, and it made me feel icky because I myself didn't know that. However, now I do know, and now I know how to change that, and I am not that person.
And so the shift there in awareness as well to break some generational situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is what makes it so hard for people to enter shadow work, is that they aren't realizing that that's the concept of healing.
Do you think the terminology or verbiage around shadow work leaves too much to the unknown for people to grasp?
Maybe. I think the biggest thing of why people avoid it is because they don't want to lean into the uncomfortable. It does.
It can, but not forever.
It does.
Right? It does suck.
But once you let it all out and start viewing the same thing that happened but with different viewpoints and accepting that, yes, that terrible thing happened to you and it should have never happened to you, but unfortunately it did. So now let's remember that it's not who we are. And you can be empowered and use that to your advantage.
Right.
If you choose to start viewing it that way. It'll take time. It's not.
So I think there's some concepts there that will lead into the awareness I had just days ago, where I had started to mention letting something go. And then within moments I received different verbiage. That sometimes the energy isn't letting it go, but it's dismissing something. Right.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Right? I don't know. Like, is that something we want to go into now, or do you want to check the time and see where we are in this season? So, letting something go, just leaving something be. It's going to take a second as I listen to verbiage come through. Feels like more of a surrender. Right?
Okay.
Versus dismissing something feels more of a controlled use of our energy. So, you know what, just let that go, right?
Yeah.
Versus this is dismissed, right? So I just had a vision, using the dinner table and children. And so growing up, when things were wrapping up, we were dismissed from the table. Like it was that authority. And so in this practice, like you would be the authority, saying you may leave, right? Versus a child that maybe just didn't want to sit still any longer and they left on their own. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. You chose not to react.
Right. You chose to just let it go. So when we talk about situations and emotions, just let it go is easier said than done. And it feels like surrender, right? However, if we choose to dismiss a certain emotion or a certain situation, then we are deciding this is where I'm not spending my energy anymore. Does that make sense?
We have the power in it. So,
and I don't like to, yes, power or authoritarian moment, or you're the decision maker, but not in an egotistical way.
Yeah, no,
right?
It's really just getting down to what you're willing to entertain and what's worth entertaining.
Absolutely, yeah.
So my take on that is within shadow work, you can choose to let it go and let things be as they are.
And maybe not work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that's still not there. And it's not going to come back in situations that you may not want it to come back in. Whereas dismissing it, you're actively choosing just, what, that's not worth me being upset about anymore. And I'm not going to be. And just completely disconnecting. Completely disconnecting. I like to tell people that if they really, truly want to disconnect from something, write it down and burn it. A physical release of something.
Without a candle practice, could you visualize that intention of writing that letter in up in smoke?
Absolutely. Maybe your visualization on it is actually tied to a bomb. You just
the whole thing.
The whole thing.
So that would be a situation that I would call, like earlier we talked about in a different episode, like that dream or that meditation, that visual aspect of that meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, what a very powerful episode.
Yeah.
Like, I was not expecting that to go
all the places. But that's what happens when great minds align. In proper time and space.
Yeah. So, thanks for joining us today on this episode on shadow work. Again, thank you, Tim, for the recommendation. Very enlightening, I think. Yeah. So,
some deep thoughts.
Yeah. Some things to go back and reflect on myself afterwards. But in the show notes, go check out the Beacons link. That's going to take you to all of our stuff. Our website you can shop on now. Our Facebook page. Maybe a little information about Witches Day Out, the festival we have at the end of the month or the end of September, depending on when you're listening. And just a bunch of other stuff. So go check it out. Leave us your topic recommendations if you choose to. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye, guys. Thanks. What was the time on that one? Not that it matters, but...
Literally 35.